In the start of manhwa, everyone asking from Saintess to choose husband from 3 candidates. Crown Prince Kyle Alemes allied. Duke Cass Cloud. The High Priest Rehaz de El. Everyone is interested in the as well as God's 2 gods, interested in decisions. Then Saintess Ariel woke from sleep. Annie, her maid, asked is she feeling well? And worried that why Saintess asking for her name since 2 days. Saintess makes excuse that she wasn't feeling well. Annie informs that is to go Crown Prince birthday banquet. After that maid left. Saintess start summarizing memorize that she is in novel, The of Saint Camilla. The novel was about saint named Camilla who gets courted by 3 incredibly handsome men. She is a daughter of a lowly baron in countryside and she is wedlock child Ariel who will die and all 3 guys will become Camilla's husband. She made a deal with Pope to become temporary saint to stabilize the political standing of Crown Prince and Pope. Since she knows the ending, but now she don't want to die, and have to survive anyhow. Then suddenly blue screen pop up in front of her and there is messages from God that gods are interested in her and her decisions. Then Pope's come by himself to give Ariel breakfast. Ariel took his name accidentally and then realized she did a mistake cause in reality Pope is not as nice person as seen. She apologized to Pope. Pope said that he came cause he want seen Ariel and now she also looked different. Then he left. Ariel thought of survival and start making a plan to save money and live happy life. Then to gods who were bored ask Ariel what she is doing. Then Annie came and Ariel asked from maid can she see anything in air. Annie decline, thinks Saintess is ill and maid said I really hope for your quick recovery, your holiness. Ariel thought the blue box is visible to her only. Maid said since you're this weak, I bet you'll have a lot of difficulty carrying out your duties. Ariel thought something is off with the way maid talks and come to think of it. All I did the past 3 days was eat, sleep, and read. Camilla, the real saint, would visit temples in different regions and meet priests there or have an audience with the emperor and the crown prince regularly. I probably don't have any official duties because I'm not the real saint. I'm supposed to be weak because I need an excuse to stay cooped up in the temple. A fake like me can't perform the tasks of the real saint. Annie maid said I told you before my brother got injured. Well, it turns out that he's in debt so I think he'll need more of my help. Ariel thought why she is telling her all of this. Then maid said can she raise her allowance that she gave her every month and smile at Ariel. Ariel thought she has seen such smile before. It's the same smile I saw from those who looked down on me for being an illegitimate child in a rich family and still tried to take advantage of my background. That disgusting look in her eyes reminds me of the people I have seen in my past life. In the novel, Ariel was a naive, emotional villainess. Annie, who's gone through a pretty rough life as a maid, must have taken her for easy target but I am not Ariel. Ariel said Annie. Maid yes your holiness. Ariel asked have I been giving you money? Maid flinch yes your highness you said you were worried about my brother and showed kindness to him. Why are you asking me that again all of a sudden? Ariel asked how much did I give you? Maid reply you gave me 650 fran a month. I'm not asking for much just 50 fran would be enough. Ariel thought a maid's monthly salary would be 200 fran at the most, and Ariel gave her 650 fran more? That explains why there was nothing in her pockets. Ariel said to maid I was a pushover, wasn't I? Annie startled. Ariel in cold tone I was such a pushover that even a maid used me. Well, that's disappointing. You don't seem to be in a good mood today. Why don't you think about it and let me know later? No. I'll make it clear right now. I'm not giving you any more money. Annie flinch. Ariel you should be paid more than enough for being the saint's maid. Why are you still asking me for money? If you're that worried about your brother, bring him to me. I heard the temple stable is in need of more workers. If your brother seems useful, I'll find a place for him to work. Maid shouts your highness. Ariel thought the shock you feel when you realize someone you thought was below you was actually above you. I know that kind of look all too well because I've seen it plenty of times in my past life. That's why her attitude was so haughty for a maid. She took me ask a pushover. Maid shouts, Your Highness, and in trembling voice said, It seems you have forgotten something important, so let me give you a reminder. I know that you are fake. Ariel thought, That's right. Real Ariel wasn't the compassionate type who would take pity on her maid and give her money, that she was just stupid enough to shudder at such a ridiculous threat. Maid said, You don't want me to go out and tell everyone that you're a fake, do you? Ariel said, Fine, go ahead. Annie, surprised, thought, What did Ariel said? Ariel thought it looks like Ariel kept her quiet by raising her allowance without complaint. It was probably 300 or 400 fran at first. And look at her asking for 700 fran now. Well, not anymore. Ariel said to Annie, Go and tell everyone. Annie said, If I tell that, you will. Ariel cuts her words and replied, I'll get executed once I'm found to be a fake. But you know something. What do you think would happen to a maid who's been covering up for a fake saint for 650 fran a month? What would be your fate? Since I'm a noble's daughter, they'll probably let me die a fast death at the very least. But I doubt they would be so generous to a maid. Annie shouts in fear, Your Holy Highness. Ariel, perhaps you might beg to be beheaded with a guillotine like me. Annie flinch. Ariel, you should have told everyone the moment you found out I was fake. Why did you just decide to get in the same boat? You realize your life on the line, yes, and by any chance, does your family know about this? Annie is in fear and shouts, No. It's just me. I'm the only one who knows that you're a fake. Ariel thought, It's true. Annie said her family has nothing to do with this. Ariel, I'll have to ask your family myself, don't you think? Annie shouts in fear, Your Holy Highness. I've been so horribly rude. You don't have to pay me anymore. I'm so sorry for what I've done. I'll never do it again. Ariel thought that she can't believe per advantage of her. Annie begged to Ariel, Your Holy Highness, please forgive me this once. Then Pope arrived. Pope swing his sword and slash Annie. And said it was an urgent situation, so I had no choice but to execute her immediately. Ariel thought, Rahaz did right. Annie played dirty and blackmailed me with my secret. If he let her live, my identity would have been exposed sooner or later. Rahaz said, Go and get some rest, he will clean the place, and Rahaz left. Ariel heart pounding, and she thought Rahaz did right, and just like how he killed Annie without asking anything, one day, he might swing his sword toward her as well. Then message pop up, the bored gods are curious about Ariel, cleverness, judgment, clamminess. Scene shifts to Pope. He is think that Ariel was foolish child and pushover and endured all mistreatment in temple and know how boldly she acted in front of maid. Scene shifts back to Ariel. She is making budget to save money and live her life peacefully. Gods can't understand and ask what is she doing. Then Rahaz came back to room. She greets him and asked what she was doing. She panicked, and him gave him congratulatory speech page for banquet. He read it and become curious, causes it more look like a love letter. Ariel embarrassed cause it was originally written by pervious saintness, not her. She said she will rewrite. Pope smiles and lefts. Ariel went to library to prepare speech but noticed a noble harassing a trainee priestess. He said he was having short conversation with her. Ariel said she will beshished him from temple, which will be same as banished from society. He argue then revel that she saint. He immediate ask for forgiveness. Saintess don't buzz at all. Then God's message pop up and the says they are curious about her justice. Sense shift, and Ariel read in the books that God's always watches Saintess. She thinks she is fake Saintess. How can this happen? How can Gods communicate with her? She wants to stop the pop-ups, but the Gods went furious, and the Ariel apology and said she will not turn off. God became happy, and Hest, the god of knowledge, give her the knowledge of blessed her with knowledge. Now Ariel is also happy. She start writing speech for banquet. Next day Pope arrive at Ariel's room. Ariel greets well and apologizes for her immature behavior and speech and said she will do best now. Pope said she doesn't have to worry because this is her home now, so she doesn't have to about anything. He asked for new speech. Pope read it. He then said it was excellent speech and also addressed that what happens in library, and he banished the noble and his whole family. Gods are very curious about Pope. Said that he has impure heart, but some gods likes his appearance. Pope leave the room. Then God start disc using about Pope his appearance. Ariel feels dizzy from all of this. Scene shifts and focus on Pope. He is thinking how Ariel is like a whole new person. Her eyes are so blue and her smile. Then High Priest came and start cursing Pope that how could he banish believer and shouts, but Pope doesn't budge and give High Priest task to investigate in far away. Scene shifts to Ariel. Ariel said it might be dangerous for her trainee. But trainee keeps begging and Ariel agreed. Now Ariel has to go palace for Prince's birthday. Dwayne, captain of Holy Heights, escort Ariel. On the way, Ariel saw a crowd of people cheering for her, and think she is fake saint, but God of knowledge is displeased with Ariel words. Ariel saintess arrived to banquet and grant welcoming of her. She greets and gives her blessing to Crown Prince. Then suddenly a blast happens. Ariel thought gods are upset, causes she kissed Prince. Then atmosphere of banquet went ominous. Ariel, though everyone thinks gods doesn't like Prince, but Ariel said gods told her they are pleased with Crown Prince and send their blessing you. After that Ariel went outside to grass and some fresh air. And then Crown Prince followed her. He demand explanation about her strange behavior and she seems completely different, he said. She didn't understand what he is saying. He said the love letter she sent him. She is shocked and give excuse that it was mistake. Crown Prince got angry. Ariel said she wrote it while she was drunk. Crown Prince said letter was too detailed about her fantasies for him, and how happy she would be if he accepted her. The letter was 10 long page. Ariel said she didn't remember. Crown Prince got angry, and said he couldn't sleep for day past few days. God got angry at Crown Prince and throws the light on him. Ariel is startled from God's behavior. She then ran to her carriage and then a message pop up that God was clearing his throat. Run away from Prince. Now Saintess went to auction house to buy items so that she can sell it and save money for her happy life. In this process God helps her to purchase valuable items. Now the trainee priests will serve her and she is overwhelming. Now God gives her opportunity to shop for more divine powers or divine items. She purchase a divine pocket in which she can keep anything. Gods are happy with Saintess and they have her real Saintess divine powers. But Ariel still thinks according to novel she is fake, so why gods gave her this power? Then Pope arrive. Saintess shocked, but Pope asked her to treat her causally and drop formality and call him by his name. Pope said he came to see her just cause he miss her. Ariel is in shocked, then Pope left. Gods are discussing his behavior. Some said he will be nice husband material, but some disagree. Ariel thinks that everything is absurd. Pope confess his feelings for Ariel in front of his deity. Scene shifts. Ariel is strolling in garden and she saw a bird injured. Ariel heals the bird but asks her maiden to not to tell anyone about her divine powers. In same garden Pope is having meeting with Cass Lloyd. Cass isn't a God's believer but still donate money in temple for his merchant group image. Then suddenly the blue bird came and sit on Cass' shoulder. They both are shocked causes the bird was about to die and now totally healed. Ariel came to their meeting point and now she meet 3 protagonists of the novel. Cass Lloyd. A temple person came and informed something to Pope. He left. Cass said he will accompany Ariel. Bluebird sit on Ariel. Cass told her it's his bird who was about to die. Ariel is in shock. Cass asked did she healed bird. She denied. Gods are in stress. Then Crown Prince informed that she is in danger. Pope thinks about Ariel action and thinks she is special. Crown Prince Teal her empress may harm her. Saintess said he is Crown Prince and one day he will be great emperor, then in future he should spare her life. Crown Prince is in flinch. She said she does her best so he should spare her life in future. Crown Prince take oath to protect her. Crown Prince touches her hair and asked about her letter she worded to him. Then a voice came. It's Pope. He interrupt. Crown Prince said they haven't done finish conversation yet. Saintess tried to distract the conversation. Pope said Crown Prince should first take appointment from temple causes Saintess belong to temple. Crown Prince and Pope have heated argument. Crown Prince point his sword to Pope in anger. Ariel is in distress. She went to room in distress state. Her maiden think Crown Prince did something warn Ariel said she had no feelings for him. Maiden see add that everyone in temple knew that she loves Crown Prince and send love letter. Ariel tried to distract and send Maiden away. Ariel went back to sleep. Then two fairy looking kids wake up Ariel and inform that she forgot to turn the chat back on. And now this system is about to be destroyed by some grumpy gods who think they've lost their only viewpoint into the world. Wake up, before the world ends. They both introduce themselves as administrator who assist the system. They beg to Ariel to open that chat room causes gods are in distress. Ariel understand the situation and open it. In morning gods are upset from Ariel and ask tones of questions. Ariel gives false statements that she is shy and what to protect her privacy while bathing, etc. Gods assure her that they never interfere in her personal space. But Ariel said she feels shy and now will close the system when she need privacy. Ariel made some bracelets for God and now gods are happy. Ariel this tactic works and all gods are happy. Last night Ariel talked to administrator that she read a novel and this world is novel, but administrator said that it was a book of prophecy not novel. She read prophecy book. Ariel may be the chosen one and will save the world.
Scene changed and in morning Ariel went to merchant group shop. Ariel Knight asked that as she is going to sell them to the merchant group again. Why she is doing this? He thought she received a regular wage. Ariel responds that she is only following the will of the gods. In her mind she is thinking that she don't have enough money to run away from the temple. Besides, that god Mond helped her again today, so she could say that she is following the will of the gods. When Ariel arrived at merchant shop she saw a woman is bargaining for something. She wants to exchange a precious necklace for Cronia. But the seller said it is a precious item, but he cannot exchange it for Cronia. Why don't he pay you instead? The women said everyone knows the Lloyd Merchant Group has it. If he keep refusing to put it out, she is sure that her employer won't be happy. Seller refused that he can't do that. Sell Cronia is illegal. He, Lloyd, don't deal with illegal items. She demand to talk to Lloyd the owner. But seller said his lordship is occupied at the moment. She need to make an official appointment to meet him. Knight tells Ariel that Cronia that's a type of narcotics. It's a plant used as a painkiller. But in many cases, it's traded as a drug. Only the temple has the authority to manage it. It can cause an irregular pulse, so it can kill a person if it's misused. The women said does he have any idea sent her and he will regret it. Ariel identify the women. She's the head maid of Empress Rose. Why would the head maid of the Empress look for Cronia? After the maid left Lloyd came and applaud his worker. Well done, Ron. Getting into a family conflict is the last thing Lloyd want to do. Ariel is shocked she didn't expect Lloyd will be there. Lloyd said he wasn't expecting Her Holy Highness to his shop. Ariel said that she here to sell some items. Ron said she came before to sell an item too, but he never knew she was the saint. Ariel said besides, these things aren't all that useful to her but they can be of use to others. That's why she's selling them. Then he would like to buy the necklace for himself for 10,000 fran. Ariel thinks does the garnet necklace is that valuable. But Ron said it's not worth more than 600 and Lloyd is going overpriced. Ariel thinks 10,000 fran is 10 years worth of living expenses for commoners. And it's about as much as her annual salary. Why in the world would he want to buy a 600 fran necklace for 10,000 fran? Her knight said Your Holiness, this is a great opportunity for her to sell it. But Ariel thought it's fishy and refused to sell necklace and said she will sell rest other items. Lloyd told Ariel actually, necklace piece is a stolen item that belonged to the imperial family. Ariel is shocked. Lloyd suggests don't sell it to anyone and hold on to it. Or she could dispose of it secretly, that is, if she don't want any trouble later on. Ariel said thank you for the advice. Lloyd said he want to get to know her more but it's a shame he won't be able to this time. Scene shifts. Ariel is in her room. She is cursing on God Mond that why he didn't told her about stolen necklace and the stupid buy which was worth of nothing. She spent 900 fran on auction but only made 300 causes of this. On top of that, she ended up catching Cass' attention, which is a big problem. And thinks, why did he try to spend 10,000 Fran in order to get something on her, and Lloyd will never make such deal, he only thinks of profits. The money she have isn't enough to buy a house, let alone escape from the temple. Then Pope Rahaz arrive. He asks from Ariel why she is saving money. Does she thinking of leaving the temple? Ariel hesitate. She start thinking about prophecy book that the first male lead prince was a cold-hearted swordmaster who was stronger anyone else as time passed. He became more and more possessive about Camilla. The second male lead, Cassie Lloyd, was a merchant who judged and valued people based on a capitalist perspective, but he was also a bold man who did everything he could to make Camilla his once he realized his feelings for her. The third male lead was a priest, Rahaz, of strong faith, who prayed for Camilla's true happiness. They all had two things in common. First, they fell in love with Camilla. And second, they were indifferent toward Ariel, the fake saint. So Ariel was certain that she would be able to live a peaceful life without attracting their attention as long as she didn't cross the line, but she getting caught with every male lead. Why is everything drifting further away from the original story? Rahaz asks in angry tone, does she want to leave the temple? Ariel hesitate and lie. She said she wants to save money to buy villa. She do get enough rest here, but she also need a place where I can have time to herself. Rahaz buys Ariel lie and said it would be nice for just the two of them to spend time together. Ariel shocked hearing this. Rahaz laughed and said he is understandable that she want to spend some time away from the temple. He won't stop her. He will assign her more guards and he can't let anyone or anything leave even a single scratch on her. Rahaz left. Ariel thinks something is definitely off. He wasn't that kind of character before. At this rate, her plan to run away and live a rich, carefree life will go up in smoke. Gods are betting on all three male protagonists. Ariel is in distress and said she doesn't wants to date anyone and don't mean to take the heroine's position at all. She do think that all three of them are attractive characters. But that's only from a reader's perspective. Now that she is actually Ariel, her first priority is to get away from them and survive. Being stabbed and dying again is the last thing she wants. Scene shift, and now Ariel and her maiden went to the eve of festival. The maiden looks so excited, it's every priestess's dream to go to the night market during the festival. Ariel bought glass cookies for maiden. They both are enjoying festival. Maiden is worried that the Pope will be furious with you if he finds out they sneaked out. Ariel said, are you still worried about that? He's probably too busy receiving guests. Ariel thanks her for lending her clothes to her maiden, said that Ariel beauty is unmatchable. Ariel and maiden noticed that two men are following them. Ariel got idea. She said let lure them in quiet place. Maiden said it's risky. Ariel said she had already prepared something for such time. The guys took Ariel bait and followed her. Little did they know that Ariel just want to test her power, which was given by God's seal, God of destruction. The guys fainted. Another guy tried to approach Ariel, then suddenly a dagger pierced his hand. Everyone is shocked. The dagger was thrown by none other than Lloyd. The guy cursed and ran away. Lloyd asked what is Ariel doing there without holy nights, and it seems like she have a knack for things like this. Ariel said all she did was push him away slightly, but he passed out. Ariel said he did threw dagger with such a distance. Lloyd mimicked all he did was throw the dagger, but it hit the target. After little chat, Lloyd asked Ariel can he escort her. Daisy went away and asked Ariel to enjoy with Lloyd. Ariel is in distress causes she again caught up with one of the male protagonists. Someone children's was playing. Ariel said it is dangerous for those children to go about on their own. Lloyd informed her that they are orphans. If they're unlucky, they either join a thief guild and become a pickpocket, or if they're lucky, they manage to survive by running errands for merchant guilds. By the looks of it, I think the former applies to them. Without faith in the gods, you can't be a part of mainstream society. But there are many things that can't be explained if gods really exist, thus he didn't believe in gods. Ariel said he may not think that way, but gods really exist. They're not perfect, but at least they're trying. So before we blame the gods, how about we try to change the world with our own hands? Since she is close to the deities, She will ask them to work a bit harder. Causes she is saintess. Lloyd said, does she remember what he said before? I told you I wanted to get to know you. Whenever he see her he filled with curiosity. Ariel is flustered and thinks even this man, who's known to be heartless, has a normal heartbeat. Ariel call herself a ordinary person, that why she get flustered. But Lloyd said when a person calls themselves ordinary, that's usually not the case. Ariel said, is this how you flirt with girls? Lloyd smirked and said, do I look like someone who'd do that? Ariel flustered and panicked and excused herself. She should get back now. There are a lot of interesting things at the night market, so have fun looking around. Ariel think that she don't think will be able to keep a straight face if she continue to stay with him. Daisy is a priestess who's serving her, so she shouldn't have left me alone. She should make this clear when she get back. Lloyd said, see you again, holiness. The first day of festival today, Ariel will be perform her official duties as the saint for the second time. Everyone came to get blessings from Saintess Ariel. Please grant the blessing of the 9 deities. All 3 protagonists are also present there with Ariel. Ariel grant all of them blessings. All 9 gods also grant them blessings. Ariel thinks that even so she feel kinda proud of herself. Maybe this is the right place for her. The festival went smoothly. Ariel take rest in the garden and asked Daisy to bring her some tea. Ariel noticed that in the garden there are many white roses. Rahaz came and greet Ariel. He plucked one flower and gave it to Ariel. Ariel said it's beautiful, but she feel bad about snapping it off its stem. Rahaz said the more he know about her the more confused he get. She said the same thing when she first came to temple, but he can't help it. He said once said Ariel wanted to see white rose. They will bloom in the back garden all year long for her. When cold winds begin to blow he will move them to the greenhouse. She will be able to see these in winter as well. Ariel thinks, does he planted all these for her? Rahaz said as long she is in temple he won't have to pick any flowers, but if she leave the temple he will pluck a bunch and bring them with him whenever he come see Ariel. Indirectly he is threatening Ariel not to leave temple. Rahaz have news to Ariel that in the Chiagu district a young woman holy power has appeared. Scene shifts. Ariel is feeling down. She is thinking about her conversation with Rahaz. She knows that Ariel isn't the real saint and she already made up my mind to leave before Camilla turned up, but she was supposed to appear 5 years from now. She can't believe the real saint showed up already. Ariel lose her appetite. She remember correctly, Camilla manifested holy power after she received a certain holy artifact from Reed, the deity of eternity. In that case this artifact would have been taken off the sales list. Besides, Camilla's hometown is Aries, while the Chiagu district is on the opposite side of the empire. Then who is that girl from the Chiagu district? Ariel asked from gods, do they know anything about the saint in Chiagu, but no reply. Ariel is pissed off. She think even if she's not Camilla she would still have to step aside for the real saint. But she can't forget Rahaz's words that nothing will change even real saintess arrived. She will still live in temple. He knows better than anyone that she need to leave the temple, so why did he say such a thing? He even threatened her to keep the secret. Does his plan to lock her in dungeon? God Hest says that she guessed right. Mond is trying to cover Hesed's mouth. Odyssey blushes while talking about dangerous tastes and love. Ariel is pissed on gods that now you're talking. All of them were so quiet when she asked them a question. Then suddenly Ariel hear knock on window, but she thinks who will be there at 4th floor. Then window opened. Did you not hear me knock? Prince said. Ariel is shocked. He said he came to kidnap Saint Ariel. He said as he thought she looks gloomy he is here to take her away. Ariel still can't believe that Prince is there. She asked why he is there. He said he came to kidnap her. He lift her up and said keep quiet, otherwise does she wants him to make her quiet. Ariel flustered. Ariel thought he went insane. Prince jumps from 4th floor. They landed safely. Crown Prince asked her does she get hurt. Ariel said no, but just worried about what will happen when someone finds out she left like this. Crown Prince said he will just kill everyone who would dare to find fault with her. Ariel asked where they are going. Crown Prince asked to follow him. It's his first time kidnapping someone alive, so he is not used to explaining things. Ariel felt worried. Crown Prince said that there's nothing like a nice walk when you have a headache. He brought her to the field filled with flowers. He asked did she heard that the real saint appeared, right? Ariel replies yes, so Rahaz told her. Rahaz and Prince decided to tell people that the deities chose a new saint because Ariel too weak to wield holy power. Ariel understand. So Crown Prince here to propose her new position in his palace. The imperial palace, few days ago before Prince meeting with Ariel. Your Highness. Little Duke Rockford Shane. Barge into Crown Prince room. After all, how long will you intend to stay still? Crown Prince asked what he means. Duke said the Empress is pregnant. You should carry out your duty as a successor, shouldn't you? Princess said if she gives birth to a son, he will have a younger brother. Your Highness. Duke shouts you've denied the daughter of the Duke Hemigson family. You even denied the saintess is the rumor that interested in men, is that true? Crown Prince replied even if only that rumor were true, he wouldn't choose Duke. Crown Prince is angry. A few months ago. Crown Prince reading previous Ariel love letter. The fake saintess sent me a letter. That was such an annoying letter. How she thought about me every night. How she wanted to share love. She even about married life with me. He felt annoyed by letter and thinks should I cut her neck. That was such an arrogant thought to Asantis. Crown Prince thought that he would deal with her at the banquet. But after a few months, he saw that girl Ariel again. That figure was different from what he has been seen up until then. Noble eyes and a precious figure. The image when talking was also very proper. It's like she really became the real saintess. And her ability to react is very quickly too. When she called Ciel's name, he was very surprised that she even hid her intelligence and acted like she didn't know anything. Or she's really a fool. When she opened her eyes anyway, she looked so cute. Prince realize he is having weird thoughts about Ariel. Does he is crazy why he is thinking about Ariel that way? A servant can inform Crown Prince that he got received have a letter from the temple. Present time. Ariel asked from Crown Prince do he have any jobs for her. Crown Prince asked does she have any places to go after leaving the temple. Ariel said does he is worrying that he will become a homeless person, but she had already done preparing everything for her life after leaving the temple. He don't need to worry. Crown Prince said that a stable life is what she wanted up until now, isn't it, and her situation is in Rahaz's hands. Even if she returned to her homeland, the future is not bright. And for the sake of political stability, she played the role of the fake saintess, so if she go to the palace, she will be treated very well. Ariel thought she will be not welcome by her family causes she is illegitimate child. For the sake of political stability? Did he mean the Empress is pregnant? Ariel thought. But, if she go to the imperial palace, she will become Crown Prince weakness. Ariel refuse. Because the Empress has noticing me. Crown Prince cut her word and speak still she made such a decision. He tried to convince she not to scare you meant after leaving the temple. You have the plan to disappear without anyone knowing. But, no matter what we do, the Empress still has a way to find out my weakness through you. So this is a good suggestion for both of us. She can't do anything to my person in the imperial palace. Ariel surprised and said that she need more time to think. It's an important matter, she need to think wisely. She doesn't want to become his weakness that is most important now. Crown Prince replied in disappointed tone that he don't want to see her corpse after she leave the temple. He will come back tomorrow. Ariel is now in her room in distress state thinking why is everything so messed up. Then the gods are also angry. God of art despises his qualities for breaking in. The god of knowledge agrees with the opinion of the god of art. The god of destruction suddenly bit the leg of the god of knowledge. A fight is happening among gods like a normal human family. Ariel shouts on gods and said she is very tired. What the hell are they doing? Ariel thinks about her conversation and thought that Crown Prince is right. If she leave the temple without good she will definitely die. But she is a person who is always tested by lightning at any time. There are invincible gods who always bless her. She thought it won't be a problem if she used some useful items from the shop. Indeed, she should refuse Crown Prince, the main protagonist, and now she thought that's the case. There is only one problem left: is distressed tone. Despite rejecting Crown Prince's offer, the person considers her a weakness. Then what is the way to survive?
The next day, after a short while, I went to an art auction and stopped by Lloyd's Merchant. After selling a few things there, behind me were Dwayne and 2 knights following. At that moment, Dwayne asked, "Am I going back to temple?" I replied yes. "'Cause after all I can't go around the streets with 3 men's on my tail." Then, I looked with satisfaction at the balance of a little over 2,000 francs and set out on the road. It is said that Chiago's girl will come after the Rose Festival is over. But even then, even if I buy a holy relic to protect myself, this will be the minimum amount of money for my independence. I put my pocket in, and walked towards the main road. Swoosh! I heard the sound of something running fast from the side of the main road. It was a sharp brown horse. A young man in noble attire was riding on the horse. It was Lord Mikhail, wasn't it? His sister is the Empress. Dwayne asked about my well-being. Then, I heard the murmurs of people saying, "Ooh." And after a while, there was a loud noise as if something was falling apart. It was Lord Mikhail, wasn't it? His sister is the Empress. There was nothing in this world that scares him. And I saw people gathering in the place where the horse had. What should we do? I think his back is completely broken. And it seems like he has no chance of living. We should inform his parents. But I think he is an orphan and from some guild. I went straight to them with a hardened expression on my face at the word, child. My heart was beating anxiously. A child of 7 or 8 years old, dressed in shabby clothes, his body was drenched in blood, and his legs were protruding bones. Dwayne, who had followed me, asked not to run like this. I said to him, "Bring a stretcher and take the child to that inn immediately." "It's an order," I shouted at him loudly, and he was dazed, then asked the knights to get a stretcher. Hurry. Human life was very tenacious. Just as I was stabbed that day and felt pain until I died. The paladins came quickly to find a stretcher, and when the child was put on the stretcher, his blood flowed down. I was filled with a sense of certainty. "Rent me a room, please." "I'll give you 10 times the price, but I can't rent you a room for a dead," the innkeeper replied. "This child isn't dead. I speak in the name of the Saintess of Elium. I give you my words. I knew I can save him." The innkeeper hesitated, and I firmly appointed the innkeeper. At that time I thought about my past life. My past life was not different than my present life of Ariel in this novel. In my past life, I had been both the victim and the perpetrator. It's not my fault that I was born an illegitimate child, but my presence has shaken the peace of the family horribly. Everyone pointed at me, hated me, and despised me. So I decided to hate them too. I pushed those who tried to trap me into the abyss. And I did more harm to those who tried to harm me. "Monster, vicious thing." Such words followed me. But I couldn't help it. That was the only way I could live like a hedgehog. I only knew how to hurt. But I was also a human being. It was the first time I felt it while saving someone and dying. After telling them to leave the child, I told Dwayne and the knights to leave. I stretched out my hands and laid them on the child's chest with a strong desire. My palms began to twirl with warmth, contrary to me practicing controlling the blessing I received from Seal. I didn't have any time to practice the sacred power. Therefore, I didn't know in what way my sacred power reached the child as a healing power. Although the child's appearance itself was disastrous, I didn't feel disgusted at all. Only infinite sympathy, regret, and willingness to save a dying life filled my mind. The energy that was circling in my hands began to be sucked into the child's. The sacred power is the power of the gods, and my hand is the faucet. I could feel the sacred power overflowing and filling my body, but the sacred power delivered to the child through my hands was at the level of dripping water, as if the faucet hadn't been turned all the way. The child's life was gradually withering away. Like a broken flower. At that moment, I felt something piercing out of my hand, and on the contrary, I felt something being absorbed into me, and then, my stomach had been stabbed by the knife and began to ache. I could feel the passage completely open. However, The healing that came from the sacred power wasn't one-sided. My stomach hurt as if the child's pain had been transmitted to me. My stomach hurt. It hurt so much that I was in a cold sweat, but I didn't want to put my hands down. With the stern sense of responsibility that a life is at stake under my hands, and the feeling of encouragement to see the child come out of death, the sacred power that was pouring out of my hand thinned and stopped. I slowly withdrew my hands. A small voice came out of the child. He exerted strength with his hands to the ground and raised his upper body. The child looked at me with fearful eyes. I was trampled on by a horse earlier. I was then able to breathe and be relieved. Did the mist save me? The child asked me. His eyes were sparkling. The gods supported me through the power, but I saved you. I have no money, though. I don't need things like money. How old are you? I'm 10 years old. The child, who seemed to be at most 8, was 10 years old. No wonder his words were so clear. Are you a member of the Thieves' Guild? I asked the child based on what I had heard earlier. He looked at me and nodded his head. After a while, I pulled out my pocket and handed the boy 10 francs. You can buy clothes with this, buy meals and eat them. From now on, if a crazy bastard on a horse runs up to you, dodge it quickly. The child opened his eyes wide and looked at me. In modern terms, it was worth hundreds of thousands of won, which is surprising. He thanks me, but he said he can't take this money, so I said, it's not a free gift. From now on, I'll hire you. At my words, the child made a bewildered expression. I've heard of the Thieves' Guild in the original story, the Thieves' Guild, where all personal information of the continent, as well as the empire, comes and goes. Since I have to leave the temple soon anyway, I need more information to save myself. Realistic information from the Thieves' Guild rather than the limited information about the temple will be helpful. I didn't have to give him useless and worthless money just because he was pitiful, but if it's something that can help each other in the long run, that's a different story. If I can get information from there through this child, it won't be a loss for me either. I saved you from dying. So if I do this, will you be able to trust me? The child nodded his head. I need information from the Thieves' Guild. You just need to periodically sell the information I need. If it's information, what do you mean? I decided to try the child's usefulness first. Is it reliable? I have a garnet necklace that the deceased Empress Dowager gave to the Empress. The octagonal red jewel is shining brightly inside the pure gold decoration. I want to find the material of that necklace. The child nodded his head with a clear look. I understand. Thank you for saving me. Although he said thank you, it was realistic for him to hold the money tightly. I'll be waiting at the third pillar on the east side of the ceremonial hall of the Temple of Ilium at noon in 3 days. So bring the relevant information. You're a member of the Thieves' Guild, so you can sneak into the temple, right? I understand. Leave it to me, miss. And leave from the window, not the door, I said, pointing to the inn's window. It won't be difficult to get to since it's on the first floor. There are holy knights outside of the room. We need to keep this deal secret. The child said, I got it. Thanks for saving me. He bowed his head to me once more, turned around, and went over the window. After a while, the door opened, and Dwayne, who was standing in front of the door, I asked, why are you looking so startled? He looked at me and said it was nothing. Then he looked around the room in surprise. Where is the child's body? Dwayne thought he was dead and asked me. The room was covered with blood, and the child's figure was nowhere to be seen. I told him as soon as the child regained his consciousness, he ran away from the window. I was going to order him not to speak, yet I gave up. Everything that Dwayne saw and heard goes to Ray Haas. Anyway, well, he didn't see me healing the child himself, so I guess there won't be any trouble. And I left the room and ordered Dwayne, please clean up the mess. I am going back to the temple. Sir Dwayne looked puzzled. He replied, yes, of course, Holy Highness. Returning to the temple after a tiring day, I stood in front of the mirror and rolled up my top. It's fine now. But I remember feeling the intense pain as if it had been cut with a knife, and after a while, I found a long, half-moon-shaped scar on my navel reflected in the mirror. It looked more like a kind of tattoo on the skin rather than a rough scar. It was the place where I had been stabbed in the past in my life. and it was the place where I had been hurting like crazy. I found the stigma and read the description, and then the chat window started blinking. You have proved your faith by fully opening your sacred power with extreme patience. Your stigma has appeared. The God's interest and favor with you increases. Then, the Oracle of Level 3 is opened, and in the chat window, a sentence came to my mind. The God of benevolence, Oman, has entered your oracle. A God, who couldn't enter the oracle, sighs as the ground is gone. Another God, who couldn't enter the oracle, is spreading the mat. The stigma that suddenly appeared on my stomach and the fact that the oracle level had risen to 3 made me bewildered. In the meantime, the chat window flashed. The God of benevolence, Oman, enters the oracle and looks around. The God of love, Odyssey, slowly steps back and makes a fuss. The God of art, Mond, shakes his head. Maybe it's just my feeling, but it wasn't an atmosphere where other gods actively welcome Oman. The God of knowledge, Hest, pretends not to know and coughs. Perhaps there is bullying among the gods. I looked at the chat window with a shaky expression on my face and said, "Anyway, you're in the oracle, so I hope everyone is getting along well." Then suddenly the God of benevolence, Oman, seems to be moved by your words. The God of benevolence, Oman, confesses that he has bought your share. At first impression, he seemed like a good rookie. Then another sentence came to mind. But the God of knowledge, Hest, says that in fact, Oman is the most destructive of the gods. The God of benevolence, Oman, stretches out a gentle hand. The God of destruction, Seal, senses danger and reveals his fangs to Oman. And it was then, the chat window where the sentence appeared suddenly stopped. It was at the moment when I was worried in my mind that I might be being baptized by other gods. The God of knowledge, Hest, is temporarily disabled. The God of benevolence, Oman, likes your shoes. The God of destruction, Seal, falls asleep temporarily with tears forming around his eyes. The God of benevolence, Oman, pats Ciel's droopy head, saying that he must be tired. Something must have happened, but I had no idea what it was. Then, the God of benevolence, Oman, winks at you, telling you not to worry. Anyway, the newcomer of the oracle seems to be adapting well. So that should work, right? Again today, after blurring the peaceful oracle room, I touched the stigma through my clothes. Obviously, she was a fake saintess when I possessed this body, but it seems that I have become a real saintess. There's no way. I shook my head, thinking of the girl coming from Chiago. Rai House, who was alone in the grand sanctuary and prayed while looking at the statue, "Please God guide my soul, and cleanse my impure heart." He felt a rush of people approaching behind his back, but he was just engrossed again, paying attention to the prayer. As he turned around after a while, he saw Dwayne's face, kneeling on one of his knees and waiting. Dwayne's face was stiffer than usual. He asked him with cool eyes, "What's going on?" Dwayne opened his mouth, still with a very stiff expression on his face. There was something bizarre happened and I didn't understand. I'm talking about the saintess. Rai House hardened his eyebrows at those words. He asked, "What is it?" The saintess moved a child, who was almost dying after being hit by a horse in the square, to the inn room and closed the door, because there was no hope. I thought the saintess would give her prayers for the last time so that her child could leave in peace. Dwayne remembered what had happened. Blood splattered on the floor and the child disappeared from nowhere. And the saintess's hands were full of blood and the child had vanished in thin air. "Are you sure that child was on the verge of death?" At Reha's questionable remarks, Dwayne nodded violently. "That's right. His back was broken and his limbs twisted, making him unable to survive. There was one window in the room, but no bloodstains were seen, and no body of a child had fallen below. If someone showed up and took the body, people would have found out. If the child is healed and walks out the window unharmed, it would be possible to disappear like that," Reha said. But Dwayne said, "It's impossible even if the saintess uses divine power. In that short time, there is a history that Bergarita, the first and strongest of the saintesses, completely brought a dying person back to life within an hour. How can Her Holiness, Saint Ariel can bring back someone in just a minute. Reha's eyes swayed. I'm going to meet Ariel. I need to meet her immediately. Scene shifts to Ariel room. I made the shop feature appear. Since the Oracle level was 3, there were still restrictions on items. But I thought that it was better because there were more items to choose from than when it was at a lower level. The money I have right now is exactly 2,000 franc, and at level 3, I was able to buy various relics. Mond's cup. If you drink from this cup, you will never get drunk. 250 franc. The god of art Mond recommends. Mond's cup. Ciel's ring. When you wear this ring, the dogs show their closeness to you. 180 franc. The god of destruction Ciel is proud of the ring. Omen's lash. When you wield this whip and say a special starter, all the opposite sex will obey you. 570 franc. There are all sorts of weird stuff. Is this really a relic store? There were also relics worth thousands of franc. Wow, expensive. As I was flipping through miscellaneous relics, I found what I needed. Hesed's bracelet. Wearing this bracelet will protect you. 340 franc, which is affordable. I don't know how much it can protect my body. I might meet that crazy guy who ran at me with a knife the last time I went to the night market again. And, according to Kyle's assumption, I might face threats after leaving the temple, so I bought it without hesitation. After a while, a crude leather bracelet was placed on my hand and I was occupied with it. The god of knowledge Hest is satisfied with your right decision. The god of benevolence Oman strongly protests against the shop. The price of Omen's lash has been adjusted to 30 franc. But I'm not going to buy that, though. Seriously, these gods are so wholesome. It was when I was satisfied with the bracelet I bought at the store. After closing the shop, a knock was heard. Soon after, the door opened and the person who appeared was Rehaz. May the high priest be blessed by the 9 gods. What were you doing? He asked. I was just looking at the scenery outside. Well, after all, I couldn't say I was shopping, she thought. He stared at me for a moment and then opened his mouth again. It would be better to enjoy the scenery outside than to see it through the window. A low, soft voice sweetly drifted into my ears. Like it's better to see Ariel like this in person than secretly. Ah yes, your holiness, I want to take a walk with Ariel, he said. As I walked through the temple with him, I stood in front of a garden where white rotunia was in full bloom. Against the darkening landscape, the white rose seemed to gradually radiate a mysterious light. As the deep blue night approached, the petals twinkled like fireflies. I looked at the bunch of flowers and said as if I was possessed, it's amazing. It shines like a lantern. The scenery I saw during the day was beautiful, but it was a flower that showed its true value at night. Reha looked back at me, staring at them for a while with a slightly startled expression, and smiled faintly. Do you know the legend about White Rotunda? He asked. At that, I shook my head. No, after coming here and receiving the blessing of Hest, I have read more than 100 books, but I have never heard of that legend. Once upon a time, faraway kingdom. It is said that a boy was living in Altion in the kingdom of Pravado, and a fairy named Rotunia. The boy surely loved the fairy. But the fairy loved a man other than the boy, and the boy made his wish to the demon king to have her. The demon king told him to put a dying bird on a vine and put it on the roadside with thorn sap. The boy did, and the next day there was Rotunia, hanging on the vine. She was poisoned by the thorn sap that ruined her wings and lived with the boy. But she never smiled at the boy, not even once. The boy went back to the demon king and asked how he would make Rotunia laugh, and this time, the demon king told him to put Rotunia's broken wing feathers on a vine and poison on it. And the next morning, the man she had loved was trapped and poisoned to death. Rotunia smiled at the boy for the first and last time with a very lovely expression. She then died when she kissed the venomous lips of the man she loved for the last time. At that moment, I got goosebumps. The thought of her beautiful smile made the boy unable to eat or swallow water, and it was painful to keep his eyes open, so he stabbed himself in his eyes and blinded them. And the moment he died in his agony, he struggled to grab the white rose that had bloomed from Rotunia's dead spot. Reha's voice was heard. That's why the flower language of Rotunia is symbolized as destruction of love. After a while I opened my mouth. That's not love. It's an obsession. It's just a crime. Is that so? Rehaz stared at the flower again. It must be an obsession to be greedy for something that needs to be let go. Why do it feel like love to me, even think it's love? Because Mr. You are a psychopath. If you have a bitter heart, you want someone to stay by your side forever, even if you break the wings of whoever you want. How displeased the gods and you must be. His low voice rang in my ears. And the moment my shoulder stiffened, a chat window flickered in front of me. Without keeping my eyes on him, I stared blankly at the chat window, then flinched my shoulders. His golden eyes were staring at me. The god of destruction, Seal, roars with deep vigilance. The god of art, Mond, lays down his infinitely light moral standards. The god of benevolence, Oman, encourages you to make him one of your humble slaves with Oman's lash. I think they're enjoying this a bit too much. I'm still not buying that whip. Ariel, flinched at Rehaz's dangerous remarks, were also bewildering, but he seemed to say something strange while I was reading the oracle in front of him. After a while, the chat window disappeared and only Reha was visible. He looked at me with an awkward expression and smiled faintly. After a while he spoke again. I was thinking about how I would react if you were a real saintess, but suddenly I came back with a long story. And at those words, I wiggled my eyebrows, a gentle breeze blew again, and the white rotunia swayed. The real saintess, you said, what nonsense are you talking about? I said to him with an awkward smile while hiding my true thoughts and fear of getting caught. It's you who made me the fake saintess. Why do you say that when you know it so clearly? He looked at me and opened his mouth. Remember when Ariel said to me you wanted this flower? If I plant that auspicious flower and see it every day, maybe someday it will dwell in me as well. You said that if you earnestly wish for something, it will come true. I thought this must be old Ariel's wish before I was reborn into this world. That's why the flower with this tragic legend is unfortunately also called the flower blessed by the gods, because it has hidden mystical powers. You said earlier that this flower shines like a lantern. And then he reached out to me and put my hand on my shoulder. The weight of his hand is carried with a throbbing weight. A low voice pierced my ears. The light of Rotunia that appears at night can only be seen with either divine or holy power. How can you see that, Ariel? Rehaz asked. I heard the sound of something crashing in my chest. That means I screwed up. The light of Rotunia that appears at night can only be seen with either divine or holy power. I heard the sound of something crashing in my chest. Damn, I screwed up. If I had known the secret of white Rotunia, I would never have said that the flowers were shining in front of Rehaz. I felt a chill in my spine and quickly shook my head. Now there is only way lie. Ariel lied. I had a dream. Unlike holy power that appears suddenly, divine power is innate. Perhaps that's why I thought that the flowers seems to glow under moonlight. Rehaz twisted his lips and said, why does it seems like you are making excuses? Ariel replied, ha ha. Oh please your holiness. You know I've always wanted to be a real saintess, so why would I lie? Ariel thought that, real Ariel, would do anything to become real saintess. Ariel added words to avoid his suspicions. If you really think that holy power has manifested in me, there's a way to check. Use holy power tester, and you will know that I am not lying. After a while he opened his mouth and said, I would rather have been mistaken. These days you seem like a completely different person. Those words made Ariel flinch inside. He then continued, well, it's getting harder and harder to control myself. His golden eyes glowed brightly in the darkness. It's the first time something like this has happened. Tomorrow morning, before the temple opens, please come to the temple annex. Ariel thought he had finished talking, but he opened his mouth again and spoke. Cold, dangerous eyes were looking at her. He said, I'll have to check it out, as Ariel said. A bell was ringing in my head to signal danger. I already felt a heavy feeling as if I had shackles on my ankle. After a walk with Rehaz, She returned to her room late and found the window door open and a letter was on my desk. "You're not in your room today, so I'll come tomorrow." It was Princess Kyle letter. Looked around the room with a chill on my spine, putting down the letter. Ariel raised one hand and touched my forehead. Ariel thought she had to get out of here as soon as possible, rather than that, starting tomorrow. Ariel reactivated the Oracle, then Oracle chat window opened. The god of art, Mond, runs barefoot. The god of destruction, Seal, is wagging his tail. The god of benevolence, Oman, is curious about your business with Rehaz. After coughing a couple of times, I looked at the chat window and said, "Listen, I don't have much time, so I will just cut to the chase. Could someone break the holy power tester in the temple's annex for me tomorrow morning?" The god of art, Mond, widens his eyes at your words. Ariel said, "I know this is ridiculous request, but I have no other option and I will consider the one who does it as a savior for the rest of my life, because this will make me get confined in the end. Don't completely destroy it, but just temporarily disable it, please." The gods have entered into a serious meeting. A message Ariel had never seen before appeared. The meeting went on for quite some time. Even after 1 hour no message pop up and she thought even it's too difficult to make a request from God, even for someone who's favored by God. Ariel couldn't wait and lay in bed. She thought maybe meeting will get over when I will wake up. What if gods didn't help me? I don't want to live in the dungeon. Maybe it was because of the stressful routine that Ariel fell asleep without realizing it. A voice wakes her up, "Your Holiness." It was Daisy. "What's going on?" Ariel asks. Daisy was stamping her feet with an anxious look. "There's a big problem. The temple annex, it's completely destroyed. I think you should go out and see it." "Wait, what?" Ariel shouts loudly. The Temple of Ilium was divided into 5 main areas. The main building, where believers gather every week. Next, it's located in a location with good access to all the buildings, including the pavilion where priests and priestesses live. And Ariel was living in the most luxurious and large room here. And there was the sanctuary, a tower where saints receive oracles, and a library. The last one was an annex that could store holy relics and distinguish divine power and holy power. The annex completely destroyed. Ariel thought, what in the world has happened? She then asked from Daisy, "You're telling me it just crashed down like this overnight?" It happened overnight, so no one was hurt, but everyone was shocked, and Pope are discussing this with all high-ranked priests. I looked at the collapsed building with an expression that couldn't be expressed in words of absurdity, and focused my eyes on the chat window. The god of knowledge, Hest, claims that his work was the greatest. The god of benevolence, Oman, suddenly swings his lash. The god of love, Odyssey, insists that everyone work together, so the share of the lifetime savior should be equally. What the hell? I forgot I was outside and screamed. I felt people's gazes on me. And I covered my mouth with my hand, but my heart was pounding. You're the gods and that's a temple. Where are their gods who destroy temples? You bastards. The god of art, Mond, is scratching his head, saying that he doesn't like it anyway because the annex building is poorly constructed. Although the purpose of not using the holy sphere was achieved, the scale was too large and noisy. The gods have entered into a serious meeting. The gods have decided on the application of your title of lifetime savior. The god of benevolence, Oman, took half the stake. Then the god of knowledge, Hest, the god of destruction, Seal, and the god of art, Mond, shared a third of the remaining stake. The god of destruction, Seal, protests that it's unfair and closes his mouth at Oman's lash. They were the gods who bought male lead stock like that, and now they are eager to go to the wrong place. I deliberately opened my mouth in front of Pope. Your Holy Highness, looks like a lightning strike. He replied. All of the high-ranking priests agreed that it wasn't a natural phenomenon. There was a lightning strike and a severe earthquake only occurred near the annex. Fragments of meteorites fell, the water supply burst into a sea of water, and the rebar corroded in an instant. Besides, it has gone down to the ground, and the holy sphere and a number of holy relics are buried. I don't know how long it will take to take it out and restore it. Ariel thought, I could guess that the reason the gods had a serious meeting last night was to share how to smash the annex. He then continued, the majority of opinions are suspicious of the high-ranking magician's attack. I opened my eyes wide at the unexpected answer from him. High-ranking magician, you say? She thought. I knew that it was a worldview in which magic existed, but I didn't pay much attention to it because there was no wizard male lead. He said, probably a 9th class, to destroy a building of this size in so many different ways. He looked at the collapsed building with cold eyes. But there are no 9th class magicians in the Empire. And there are a lot of things that are ambiguous. So I'm going to ask Baron Vester to do it. His piercing eyes turned to the wreckage. As soon as I heard the word Vester, my head throbbed and I cried, Diego Vester. I forgot him for a moment. The most troublesome villain of the original story. The greatest magician of the Empire who received the title of Baron for his achievements, and his real identity was one of the magic dukes who ruled the demon realm. Ariel in the original story was crazy about her jealousy of Camilla and made a soul-bending contract with Diego Vester. According to the contract, Diego did harm to Camilla, but her power protected her and the 3 male leads rescued her. That story was about the only demon tribe related that appeared in the original story, so Diego was the one person I shouldn't have met in order not to follow the original story. I don't agree with this, I said to Reyes with my eyebrows hardened. If we entrusted a request to the magicians about what happened in the temple, how funny would they think of the temple? Reyes replied, although the saintess is right, in a situation where we suspect the magician as the culprit, wouldn't it be better to ask them to catch the culprit themselves? A meager 40 remained at the place where the magician used magic, and like fingerprints, it became the basis for arresting a magician who committed a crime. Although magicians aren't trustworthy, but they will never make Temple their enemy. And once they understand the situation, I believe they will also help us. Ariel thought, there was no way that 40 people would remain in the destruction the gods had made. So, what will you do if the criminal is caught? In response to my question, he slightly hardened his fine brows with eyes that didn't understand my intentions. Whatever happens, if the culprit is made public, all the people of the Empire will know that the temple annex has been so devastated by a magician. Then the status of the temple will decline. If a magician comes in and destroys an annex, wouldn't it affect the security of the temple or even the confidence of the people of the Empire? Then he said, you've changed a lot. I was just worried about the status of the temple. Magicians are gossip-monger, aren't they? What's the point of joining the team only in the temple? They can't shut their mouth, she thought. I just have to push it into a mode that says I'm more mature than before. The corners of his lips twisted slightly at my words. The words of the saintess are also true. We will shut the mouths of the priests and quietly pursue the criminal through the paladin's holy nights, he said. I nodded without making eye contact. Thank you for reflecting on my opinion. Then I turned around and said, I'm very tired from seeing the shocking appearance since this morning. I need to rest a little more. Ray has replied, of course you may go and rest. He has a little sinister smile and at the end he said, see you soon. Scene shifts. Ariel is in her room now. 1600 franc. I thought seriously about the money I had. Should I just run? Everything was going in a direction I hadn't thought of. Since the temple annex with the Holy Sphere has collapsed, There's no need to measure my power for the time being. So even if I can avoid Raiheusd's investigation, Kyle will come to you tonight. After thinking for a while, I heard a knocking sound. Saintus, it's me. Daisy came in through the door and handed me an envelope. She said, I have received a letter from the Imperial Palace. A letter. Frowning my eyebrows, I removed the seal from the envelope and pulled out the paper. I don't think I'll be able to stop by for a while. I'll visit you when things are been settled. Kyle Alexis. I can't believe he wrote such a welcome message on such a uselessly good piece of paper. Kyle, you're a surprisingly sensible man. She thought, yeah, let's think about escaping a day or two more. Daisy said, looked into that matter we spoke about earlier. I'm not sure why, but a temple carriage left for Chiagu about 10 days ago. Wait, you mean the carriage for Chiagu already left? Ariel asked. Daisy continued. The carriage left about 10 days ago, and considering the length of stay, it would take about 15 days. It was 10 days ago, and today, a person from the imperial family met the high priest in mourning. I wonder what all the fuss about. They had already decided to bring her in about a week before Rehas told me about the girl in Chiago. I had a strange feeling. They're bringing in a new saintess, so why are they interested in my holy power? I'm saying that a simple holy power measurement will be easy the moment she arrives. Daisy, when Chiago's carriage returns, I may leave the temple. Daisy shouts, what do you mean, saintess, saintess? No way. Are you going to leave? I was also noticing that the saintess's heart wasn't in the temple, but you take me wherever you go. You're smart and quick-witted, so even if new superior comes along, you'll be fine. Are you just trying to waste the time you've spent until you become Eliam's apprentice priestess? Daisy replied, I entered the temple, but I was struggling because it didn't fit my aptitude. When I was wandering and suffering, the saintess gave me your hand and pushed me, so I don't care. Anyway, if you leave, I'll follow you wherever you go, saintess. Daisy clenched her fists and shouted resolutely. Seeing Daisy's bright eyes saying that she would follow me somehow, I felt a bit of regret, wondering if I had said it for nothing. Scene shifts. Taking a walk as an excuse, Ariel stopped at the third pillar on the east side of the ceremonial hall attached to the main building, because it was the day she decided to meet the child of the Thieves' Guild that she saved. The annex collapsed and security was further strengthened. It was doubtful whether the child could come. However, before the doubts could subside, I heard the child's voice behind my back. You were the saintess. When she turned around, she saw the child standing. She smiled softly and opened my mouth calmly. Turns out you're pretty good. He replied, the Thieves' Guild's information is the best in the Empire. There was pride in the child's eyes. Did you search for what I said? The child nodded his head and he immediately opened his mouth. Count Rosento, grandfather, Hagen Rosento, bought the necklace from stolen goods several years ago, but now it has been sold to a woman through an auction and isn't in his possession. She looks like a noble girl, but she doesn't show her face in social circles, so we don't even have information about her in our guild. She hid my surprise inside and said to the child, and thought he is trustworthy. Then she said, yes, that's enough. The accuracy of the information exceeded expectations. She said, there's something else I want you to look into. He asked, what's that, Your Holiness? I took 50 francs out of my pocket and handed it to him. He startled and asked why. Ariel replied, this is the important job, because you will need what it takes to dig up information from your superiors. This time, find out about a person from the Ares area. I understand, he said. Scene shifts. Around evening, Raiheusd came to see me. with a shaky expression on his face. Ariel thought, why be always keep finding her? Ariel greets. The blessings of the 9 gods. Before I could finish my words, he called my name. The golden eyes fluttered in the dark atmosphere. Somehow, his voice seemed wet. I'm here to ask your opinion. She said, of course, please say it. In about 15 days or so, the carriage with the girl will arrive from Chiago, and the imperial palace requested that the saintess be sent as soon as possible, he said. The imperial palace? For what reason? She asked him calmly, suppressing some anxiety. He said, Empress is with child and she wanted to receive the blessing of the saintess. She thought, if the Empress is pregnant, won't that make Kyle's position even more precarious? That's what Kyle was taking about in letter. She continued, so, you want me to decide whether I should go or Chia, but it's my last mission as a fake saintess, so if you send me, I'll go. At my words, Reyes looked at me silently with dark eyes and opened his mouth. Honestly, I don't like you going to the imperial palace. But if I don't let you go, it'll be strange. His eyes twinkled, as if reason and emotion were fighting fiercely. All in all, it was a really useless fight. He then said, I know how many times Prince Kyle has visited you. He lowered his head and placed his forehead on my shoulder. A low voice rang in my ears. Do you still like Prince Kyle? She flinched and thought, no. Why is the conversation suddenly flowing this way? There was a slight scent of alcohol in the air. He was drunk. She asked, Your Holiness, perhaps have you been drinking? In this world, it wasn't a problem for priests to enjoy alcohol in moderation. He replied, Yes, I was comforted by alcohol because things didn't go as I expected. Ariel cried, and thought, things aren't going as planned, you shouldn't say that. He said, I thought I had dedicated this body to the gods. I guess it wasn't like that, when I see things like this in my head. And a chat window flashed in front of Ariel. The god of art, Mond, is delighted and surrenders Raiheusd's body to you. Ariel panicked and shouts on gods. I don't need such concession. She heard his voice again. What a shame, at best. I made a comfortable place for you to live in the basement of the annex after your retirement, which was completely destroyed by the earthquake. At that moment, Ariel's spine cooled. She thought, the fact that if gods hasn't destroyed annex, then she would have imprisoned there. The god of destruction, Seal, growls, and the god of art, Mond, talks about the aesthetics of confinement. The fact that I shouted to the gods when I saw the annex collapse earlier is cancelled. Well done, my gods. He continued, I'm wondering what to do to protect you from the insidious prince. Ariel replied, excuse me, I think you're the most insidious, though. Before the atmosphere got weird again, she opened her mouth. Don't worry. I'll take good care of my well-being. So, go ahead and rest today. Then he raised his head and looked at me, smiling softly. He was a little crazy, but when he smiled, he looked like an angel that had descended. He said, if you said so, I think I said too many useless things today. Forget it and go to sleep. After speaking in a soft voice, he returned to his usual footsteps. After he left, Ariel is out of breath. She had been holding in. Scene shifts to Imperial Palace. I'm bored, said Empress. Rosé Michaela Ilide, the Empress, was taking a footbath with her dress rolled up to her calves. She said, I asked them to send the Saintess as soon as possible under the pretext of miscarriage, so she'll be here at least within a week. Right? It's unbelievable how bold that fake is. The boredom is short-lived, sister. We'll see something interesting soon, said her brother who was in the chair a little further away. Her younger brother, Alberto Michael, was sitting crookedly. Rosé said to Alberto with a venomous smile, "I had no idea that you would play such an important role as Count Mikhail's prodigal son. This sister is very happy. When this is over, I'll give you a lot of compliments." Alberto shrugged his shoulders. The Saintess and the High Priest would have thought it would be over if they killed a maid who knew the secret. Well, who knows? I didn't know that girl was into me. That wench Annie maid was one of the plaything of mine. She poured all the fake Saintess story. He said, "If things go wrong, you can put all the blame on her and Kyle, and even for your miscarriage." Rosé looked down and let out a small sigh. Said, "Why? What miscarriage, Alberto? I told you that kind of talk is no good for the baby. Last time it was that business with the carriage, and now this." The hands of the maids washing Rosé's feet were shaking. They instinctively knew that what they had just heard was not something they should listen to. Maid said, while trembling, "Your Highness, I won't breathe a word about what I've heard, please." Empress get up and said, "Alberto darling, clean your mess." Next day, Ariel went to Imperial Palace. Wearing a white lace dress, she gently came out from the white carriage bearing the Ilium pattern. No matter how strong the influence of the temple was, Ilium didn't reach the splendor of the Imperial Palace. The pond, the gorgeous bridge, and the grandeur of the palace seemed like another world. Whoa! She was mesmerized by the glamour of She Palace. Then she shook her head and thought, "It's not a time of sightseeing." She thought, the salary she received recently, the money she secured by going to and from the auction houses several times is now 3,500 francs. The temple annex went into restoration work. She often stopped by to see the restoration work, and the wreckage, now exposed to the ground, has largely disappeared, and if they ever find the holy sphere buried in the ground, Reyes might call me right away. She clenched her fists as she recalled a certain relic in shop. It was a little bit difficult for her, but to think that she could go to Lloyd's Merchant one more time. All she need to do is to make through holy power test, and on the contrary, she just need to hold on for today. Then it's a goodbye of my stressful temple life and hello my happy life, and now all she have to bless Empress. That was the plan anyway. Ariel went inside Empress' room. The Emperor said, "It is said that the divine power of a saintess has been newly manifested. It's uncommon to have two saintesses in a generation. Although it's hard to understand. Anyway, we need a blessing. So I called her right away, and it's rare to have two saintesses in one generation." She was a woman who looked a year or two younger than me, with blue hair and black eyes. A woman was already standing there. She was wearing a white lace dress similar to Ariel, and she was staring at it with a very static and calm expression. Then Empress said, "Your Majesty, to have two saints in one generation, isn't it rare? It impossible." At those words, Ariel began to have an ominous feeling. Empress continued, "The blessing was urgent. So I stole the carriage from Tiago in advance. I hope the temple will understand generously." Ariel is frozen now. She thought, why does things keep going wrong? Then the Empress spoke. "I'm telling you, Your Imperial Majesty. In fact, the reason I brought these two saintesses together is because I have recognized the impure and unscrupulous problems that exist, as well as the problem of blessing for our baby." The girl from Tiago lowered her eyes down a little. "Actually, I didn't expect this to happen at all. I tried not to be agitated and calmed my mind." She continued, "It's an unscrupulous matter." "Ah, my head." The Empress rested one hand on her forehead and laid back on the bed. "Rosé, don't overdo it now and rest. I will investigate the matter." The Emperor spoke to her with a worried face. "Sister isn't feeling well due to pregnancy, so may I speak on her behalf?" There was a voice intervening in the gap. He was an unfamiliar, yet strangely elusive man. "Tell me what happened, Sir Mikhail. If it's Mikhail, it's the same last name as Rosé's before her marriage. So he might be her brother. Alberto Mikhail. And at that moment, the man who struck down the child of the Burglars Guild flashed through my mind. Oh, this punk. Isn't he that bastard? So, they're villain siblings, right? Alberto raised his index finger and pointed at me and shouts. This woman is a fake. At his direct words, the Emperor took a breath in surprise. Sir Mikhail, what blasphemy is this? The Emperor roared. That voice resounded in the Empress room. Saintess, please understand my brother-in-law's faults with kindness. Your Imperial Majesty, Alberto is right. And then the Empress' voice was heard from the bed. When I found out, I was devastated. The new Saintess from Chiago stood beside her without a word, with her head bowed. It is said that there was a maid named Annie who had been taking care of the Saintess until last month, and she went to Alberto and confessed her guilt, saying she would tell the truth while Alberto was thinking about whether the country would turn upside down if the truth was revealed. A real Saintess appeared in Chiago, and only now I was able to announce it. I furrowed my eyebrows at the sudden appearance of Annie's name. So the person inside the temple that the Empress's younger brother had communicated secretly with was Annie. That girl plucked 650 francs a month from Ariel for her weakness as she was a fake Saintess. Alberto spoke. Investigation with the assistance of the High Priest will reveal that Annie received a considerable sum of money from the Saintess each month in exchange for her silence. She's missing and we can't investigate her personally, but she also has a handwritten letter. Alberto took the letter from the inside and unfolded it. The letter, written in round handwriting, said, "It's hard to please a fake Saintess." The Emperor's eyebrows hardened. His gaze slowly turned to me, and said, "What do you think of this story, Saintess?" I closed my mouth and walked over to Alberto, reaching out my hand, spoke. "Would you give me that letter?" Alberto snorted his nose and he continued to speak to the Emperor. His voice reading the letter could be heard nearby. "And if you look at it," she asked how to write a letter of proposal to the Crown Prince and I told her. I write obscene words on purpose and tell her that men like these things. But if she follows them straight away, you can tell that she's a vulgar and stupid woman. This is absolutely absurd for a Saintess to do. Ah, maybe that's why she wrote such an absurd letter. My head was pounding at the newly revealed truth. At that, the Emperor looked at Kyle and asked, "A letter of proposal, what does that mean?" Kyle answered, "It's something that I don't know. The person who created the existence of me is Kyle, so you shouldn't ask him." I shook my head inwardly. Alberto said, biting his tongue, "Your Imperial Majesty, it's not written in this letter, but Annie once said something like this. The Crown Prince knows that she's a fake Saintess. Wouldn't that mean that he was clearly an accomplice? Besides, if she's even proposing, they're in a normal relationship." "Oh, Alberto," and Rosé's tired voice could be heard from the bed like a well-written script. "When you talked to me, there was no such thing. How could the Crown Prince be involved in this? Her Imperial Majesty, please calm down." And the gentle voice of a Chiagu Saint's. The Emperor's face was as hard as a stone statue, and doubts about me, who had been listening without a word, slowly filled his eyes. Alberto spoke. "Why is there no answer?" Saintess. A thorn-like air was entwining my neck, forcing me to confess something. My head went cold and I thought of the best option I could make at this moment. Then the Crown Prince spoke. "Sir Mikhail, can you take responsibility for the nonsensical story that came out of your mouth with your life?" At Kyle's murderous eyes, Alberto staggered backwards and appealed to the Emperor. And spoke. "The Crown Prince is threatening me." Kyle looked at him with contempt and turned his gaze to the Emperor. "Your Imperial Majesty." And when Kyle finally spoke his words in a low voice to protect me, I arranged everything I had to do from now on. And I opened my mouth. "It's just a maid and whatnot. With a delusional letter or something. Are you trying to make me a fake Saintess? Are you accusing me?" Alberto's narrowed eyebrows were troubled. "Even a real Saintess has appeared, but she's still pretending." I asked. Any proof that that woman is a real saintess? Alberto's eyebrows twitched. You sure are very shameless. Rosé's edgy voice was heard. If it's fake versus fake, there's no hesitation. Alberto's voice was heard. Miss Tina made a deer walk, in which it was unable to walk because of its broken leg, and opened the eyes of a blind man who couldn't see. A lot of people in Chiago saw it. I spoke. Bring the imperial pharmacists. It will help us distinguish between fake saintesses. I will do as the saintess says. The emperor readily accepted my offer. Alberto spoke. But, your imperial majesty, if she had made a move in advance. Are you saying that the imperial palace is so weak that she can make a move from outside? Why are you so opposed to it when you haven't even proposed a way? Sir. At the emperor's words, Alberto was forced to take a step back. Ariel. At Kyle's low voice sounded like a whisper. What are you going to do? I turned my head slightly to look at him and smiled faintly. Look carefully from now on. I'll turn it over for sure. A chat window flashed in front of my eyes. The god of art, Mond, criticizes Mikhail's face. The god of benevolence, Oman, caresses the handle of the lash. The god of destruction, Seal, is growling. After a while, 4 imperial pharmacists entered. Pharmacists have no power, but they will be adept at all kinds of herbs and plants in the world. Emperor asked to draw the curtain. Then Ariel opened the package and held it. It was a white rotunia with roots. The pharmacist's eyes widened. It's rare to see a beautiful white rose. I think pharmacists know what this is. And in my eyes I see the delicate light of the flower. A flower gives off light. What kind of craft is that? Alberto stopped me, but the pharmacists all agreed with my answer. She continued. White rotunia is a flower that shows its light to those who have holy and divine power. It's a little known fact, but pharmacists will know. Alberto looked dissatisfied, yet he couldn't deny the fact. She continued. And the saintess from Chiago, Miss Tina, if you really have holy power, you will see it in your eyes. To my words, she replied with subtle wobbly eyes. Reply. Of course. I knew it. She took my bait. I came to one conclusion about them. There is a high probability that even the saintess named Tina is also fake. Although she may not have holy power, she must be a woman with a degree of divine power. It's also pretty strong, so it would have been possible to heal. First of all, she wasn't Camilla, the real saintess in the original story. I wondered if it had changed to something from another area, but her appearance was different from the platinum-haired Camilla. Ariel then spoke. Pharmacists, grind this flower well into tea, and also prepare a white sand flower, which is said to have the worst poison in the empire. I could see Kyle's eyebrows hardening at my words. The white sand flower was a plant that looked like a white rose, and it was a rare plant with a venomous poison in its petals. If you grind the two of them, you probably won't be able to tell which one is the rotunia. I continued speaking calmly, indifferently. Rotunia is a mysterious flower, and if you're a saintess, you can tell which tea is rotunia. It's a very simple test. Saintess. The emperor opened his mouth. Then you can tell a fake saintess by choosing rotunia tea. No, I laughed softly. That's not enough. Shouldn't you have the courage to drink and die if you pick the wrong tea? Then the results will be certain. I could see the face of the saintess from Chiago hardening at my words. If it is revealed that I'm a fake saintess, both the crown prince and the high priest will suffer a devastating blow. Then, on the contrary, this time, even if the empress sets up a fake saintess, she won't have anyone in a position to question her. This is the procedure for verifying the power of the Holy Sphere, as long as the documents are decorated appropriately, just like Rayhousey did to Ariel. This girl from Chiago seems to have the power, so she'll do a better job of the fake saintess role than me. But I'm not the real Ariel. Ariel opened her mouth and spoke. Is the Empress' opinion the same? The tip of Rosé's thin eyebrows wiggled. No matter what the Empress had prepared, I wasn't afraid. Are you sure that woman is a real saintess? Your Imperial Majesty the Empress. I would like to reveal the truth to the Empress, who is devoting her efforts to uncovering the fake saintess even during her pregnancy. But if it interferes with prenatal education, there is nothing I can do about it. Her eyebrows twitched at my words. Then the Empress spoke. Your Imperial Majesty, you can do that, because there is nothing more harmful to prenatal education than a dizzying state of affairs. At the words of the Empress, the Emperor nodded his head. Then the Emperor spoke. Pharmacists, as the saintess says, prepare 2 teas with no mistakes, and go out so as not to give a signal by any chance. The positions of the 2 cups of tea will be chosen by Sir Mikhail, and the 2 saintesses will have to cover their noses with a cloth and choose which one is Rotunia with only their eyes. Then I saw Tina. She had an anxious expression on her face, but she didn't seem to be shaken by believing in herself with power. I could see Tina's eyes fluttering sharply. I said to her calmly, I'll give you a choice. Choose first. After looking at the 2 cups of tea with her pale face for a long time, she looked at the Emperor and said, It's a conspiracy. Both cups don't contain Rotunia. Neither of the cups of tea shines. At those words, the Emperor hardened his eyebrows. And I opened my mouth and hung up. That's strange. You're sure you have the power, right? It shines like this to my eyes. Her eyes shook at my voice. Then she shouted, What kind of trick is this? At my words, Tina lost her reason and became very angry. Ariel continued, Unless you can't tell the difference because you're cheating with your power, which is divine power rather than holy power. I casually picked up one of the glasses. I murmured calmly, Rotunia is nothing like tea. As a tea it's bitter. The god of art, Mon shrugs his shoulders. The day I was walking through the flower fields of Rotunia with Rayhausti, I noticed that the petals that had been unintentionally opened didn't give off light. Like a mini light bulb connected to a battery, the petals separated from the roots are crushed and the light is blown away. Tina denied the reality as if she had gone mad, but when there was no one to defend her, she crawled towards Alberto. She spoke. Sir Mikhail, this is different from what you said. You said you would give me the wealth and honor of Ilium. You dirty fake saintess. Alberto took a teacup from the table and, before anyone could stop him, grabbed her chin and forced it into her slightly gaping lips. He continued, How dare you deceive me and the Empress? Sir Mikhail, Kyle shouted and approached Alberto, pulled him off by force and rolled him up. Watching this all the commotion Emperor ordered to stop it. And asked soldiers to put fake saintess in prison. Alberto quickly tried to apologize and blamed everything on the temple that they sent that girl. The Emperor shouted at Mikhail in an angry voice. Such an absurd disrespect is being committed. Besides, you're blaming the temple for this madness. Quickly get down on your knees to the saintess and ask for forgiveness. He grinded his teeth and knelt before Ariel and apologized. Ariel leaned slightly down and made eye contact with him. He's a madman who hits people with a horse, and he just killed a woman. How many people are being harmed? Sir Mikhail, I raised my hand and patted him on the cheek. In the eyes of others, it will look like it was just brought. However, since I used Ciel's blessing, he must have felt a shock similar to being slapped on the cheek. I saw him widen his eyes. I whispered to him, still smiling. A chat window flashed in front of me. The god of benevolence, Oman, nods satisfactorily. Well, it's not a lie. Just now, the god of benevolence has told me to deliver it. I got up again and smiled softly. Then the Emperor's trembling voice was heard. Today's work is on me, not the temple. I bowed my head slightly to the Emperor and said, It must be my fault that they misunderstood because I'm weak. The god of art, Mont, pays tribute to your acting skills. The Emperor paused his words and opened his mouth again. You are indeed the spiritual leader of Ilium and the people of the Empire. I don't mean to say it at a place like this, but if the Saintess is really close enough to my son to write a proposal letter, you have my blessings. Please keep in touch with my son in the future. I could see Kyle's eyebrows wriggle at the Emperor's words. Not knowing how to respond, Kyle broke the brief silence that followed. Your Imperial Majesty, the Saintess seems tired today, so I will see her off. I glanced towards the Empress. She was holding her stomach tight and staring at this side with her piercing eyes. The dark face suited her quite well. One can only escort someone to the carriage, but Kyle went all the way to get on the carriage. And he offered to take me to the temple. He spoke. You must have something to tell me. Ariel replied, don't ask me how I got the Rotunia tea. It's a trade secret. He continued, I have no way to know. Whether it was your intention to deceive Rayhousty, or, with what intentions, Rayhousty dared to play tricks on me. If it is true that you're a fake Saintess, even that. I shrugged and answered him. Whether I'm fake or real, the important thing is that I have been helping your highness from the beginning to the present. I'll never bite you, so don't worry. He spoke, are you asking me to believe you? She replied, your highness is free to say what you think of me, but it isn't beneficial to have a clear enemy and focus on other things. As I was about to get down with him sitting crooked behind me, his low voice rang in my ear. Ariel. I paused and turned around. He spoke, the offer to come to the Imperial Palace isn't valid from today, but I plan to find you often. Whether you're fake or real. I stared at him with awkward eyes. He continued, now it's clear that we have the same enemy. All the lives of those in the same boat with me are mine. No one dares to harm my person without my permission. There was an arrogant confidence in his voice. Perhaps because I was surprised by the sudden approach in his eyes, my heart was racing, and my head was complicated. I said, avoiding my gaze. And spoke, even if your highness doesn't protect me, I can protect my body well. So you don't have to worry about it. He said, you know it's too late to draw a line. Besides, do you know that attitude excites me even more? I'll visit the temple soon. I avoided his gaze and kept my mouth shut. After opening the door, I entered the temple and saw a man at the end of the corridor. It was Rayhousty in white uniform that looked like snow. He spoke, did you give the Empress a blessing? At his words, I shook my head. There was something that's a little complicated. Despite my answer, he smiled faintly as if he had guessed my answer. He spoke, I heard that the girl from Chiago turned out to be a fake. And you proved that you were a real Saintess. Will you explain to me? His eyes shone strangely. After a while, I looked at him with a calm expression and said, it's true that the girl is fake. However, I'm not real. It was just a trick. His gaze was towards me and he was holding the holy sphere. He wanted to test holy powers again, then he spoke. We had something we were going to do last time. Do you remember, Saintess? When the holy sphere turned blue when Rayhousty touched it, he smiled at Ariel and now waiting for her to touch it. I cautiously stepped out, and one step at a time, I got closer to it. Rayhousty was looking at me, and then spoke, look like you have run out of tricks. I quietly raised my hand, and before touching the holy sphere, I looked back at him and asked, do you think I'm a Saintess? His eyebrows moved slightly. I stretched out my hand further and placed it on the holy sphere. No power was detected. Then he spoke, look like you really don't have any holy powers. With a calm expression on my face, I removed my hand from the holy sphere. Even though my body was still stiff with tension, the window in front of me was still glimmering. You purchased the holy relic, pendant of sealing. Although I failed to sell the white Rotunia, I was able to purchase the holy relic, pendant of sealing, at the shop, having received a gift including gold coins from the Emperor. When worn, it seals abilities such as holy power, divine power, and mana within the body. And with a certain probability, it cancels out external attacks of holy power, divine power, or mana. Inside, there was sealing holy stone, and sealing magic stone, which can be used separately. The price of this holy relic, which was supposed to be used when sealing the final Demon King, was really evil, but I had no choice. It was unfair to spend a lot of blood and sweat to prevent a major twist of the original story, though. I wore the pendant as soon as I bought it. I said, "Is it confirmed now?" Rayhousty stared at me without answering my words. I bowed my head slightly to greet him and turned around. Then his voice was heard. "In the Imperial Palace. Did you meet Prince Kyle?" I stopped and answered without looking back at him. "Yes," he replied. "Are you thinking of going to him?" I paused for a moment and then looked back at him. And spoke, "I think it's a little too much for me. But thank you for your kindness every time." I decided to express it openly to him. A long silence passed between us, and Rayhousty opened his mouth. "I thought it couldn't be. Because Ariel is just a fake saintess. It doesn't matter if you leave the temple." A heavy feeling weighed down on me. But since when was it? It felt unpleasant. The moment I heard that voice, I froze. I'm talking about myself. It was a body that only responded to prayers to the gods. Then chat window open. The god of benevolence, Oman, is satisfied with his habit. The god of art, Mond, rejoices in his prayers. I paused at the strange thought that came to my mind. But my thoughts stopped at his next words. "It's crazy, but I thought you might be one of the two. It's either the gods, or the saintess. But that can't be true. You, who used to be a fake saintess, suddenly became real." He lifted his hand and shook his head with a bitter smile. And he looked at me as he continued, "I would just assume that this peculiar, profane disposition has been cured." Ariel was too stunned to speak. My favorite scene in The Return of the Saintess Camilla was when Rayhousty kissed Camilla's foot, who was sleeping exhausted. With a presence like a goddess, he couldn't even get close to his beloved, but his pure and sorrowful heart, approaching her feet and kissing her. I like that part quite a bit. Even though he has the face of an obsessive, exhausted man now, I never doubted that he could change. I rotated my brain to find the right word and spoke. "The balloon effect caused by the craving for a real saintess is something like this. As you suppressed my cravings, you burst into the wrong place." At my words, Rayhousty moved his eyebrows. Ariel continued, "When the real saintess appears, you will fall in love so much that you will completely forget about me. I'm not special at all." He smiled softly. His hand pointed to my heart. And spoke, "Every time you say that, it hurts here." He was handsome enough for me to exclaim, "Wow. Isn't it against the law to make such an expression?" I looked at him with a blank expression for a moment, then finally made up my mind and opened my mouth. "Because I'm going to leave someday. Don't give me too much." It was a bit cold, but it was sincere. It's a pity that Rayhousty's relationship has ended like this. "Ariel." I heard his voice, but I turned back and walked down the corridor. His dark gaze lingered on the back of my head. The chat window open. "The god of art, Mond, condemns your coldness. The god of knowledge, Hest, praises you for being sharp." The opposite reactions of the gods were floating around in the chat window, but I continued walking, shifting my gaze to another place. It was when I walked down the corridor with a heavy heart and arrived at the hallway leading to my room. Suddenly, a sharp scream was heard from somewhere. Startled, I ran to where the scream was heard. "This isn't enough holy power." I pushed out one of the priestesses in front of me, and my face hardened in surprise at the scene unfolding in front of me. My heart was beating like crazy. A memo saying, "I paid off today's debt," was scattered on the floor. Then I saw Daisy, who was dying from her severely wounded chest and stomach, dripping blood with every breath she took. There was blood pooling on the floor, and the maids and priestesses were weeping. Two of the priests tried to pour out their divine power, but it was too small an amount. Daisy opened her blood-drenched lips and clapped her mouth. "Please be careful." Tears like dew on the corners of her eyes made me lose my temper. Something deep inside my chest swelled up. A warm light formed on my hand that covered her chest, as her blood gushed out, and it wrapped around Daisy's body. Her words, "Even so, I still want to be with the saintess." Her words, which she said with her eyes shining, lingered in my ears. Perhaps I really thought of this kid as my real sister. Seeing her messed up looks so painful that my heart was ripped apart. Without hesitation, I took off the pendant and placed my hand on Daisy's chest. At this moment, any kind of thoughts couldn't stop me. It hurts. It was an unforgettable pain. You have to live, Daisy. Just as you chose me, I also chose you. Daisy's body, which had been cold, had regained some warmth, but it was still not enough. I concentrated more divine power on my hands. Daisy was still lying in front of me, and her clothes were completely soaked in blood. However, those black eyes were looking at me, as if she was waking up from a deep sleep. With eyes full of vitality, she spoke, Saintess. And, startled by this scene, the priests and priestesses, who stood still as if they were dead rats, all shouted together. Among them, voices were heard muttering prayers in emotional voices. 9 gods. The disciple of Eliam witnessed a miracle. The saintess saved a priestess. A voice came, Ariel. It was only then that I realized that I had publicly saved Daisy and there was no way to escape. Turning stiffly, Ray Housty was standing there. Well, that, I opened my lips, feeling burdened by his eyes pouring towards me. I couldn't come up with any excuses to make. At that moment, suddenly he got down on one knee and the other knee too. Ray Housty lowered his head deeply and kissed the top of my foot. A tickling sensation rose through my heart as his soft lips touched. Then he spoke, this twist is also welcomed. I was surprised. His red lips twitched, and a soft, barely audible voice flowed out. Then after all the commotion Ariel went back to her room. She was restless and totally exhausted. Around now, Daisy must be washing up hard, right? I've been through a lot today. Didn't I go to the Imperial Palace and have a fight with Alberto? Well, it ended with my victory. Coming back to the temple, someone attacked Daisy. If she had died, what I had planned before was unforgivable, but attacking people around me was even more unforgivable. You touched the wrong person. Empress. There is a saying that the best defense is attack. I didn't mean to match the beat of someone who meant to mess up my life. Then the chat window opens. The god of benevolence, Oman, blesses you. When I received Oman's blessing, I felt warmth radiating through my body. The god of knowledge, Hest, blesses you. Hesed's blessing cleared my head. Stop. It's too much. At the text that appeared in the chat window, I hurriedly made an X with my hand. The god of love, Odyssey, expresses his disappointment in you. The god of destruction, Seal, is trying to memorize a blessing spell, but he looks at you. Ariel said, don't waste your blessing, no, your power. The god of love, Odyssey, blesses you. The god of destruction, Seal, looks at you. That's why. The god of destruction, Seal, looks at you. Alright, do it. The god of destruction, Seal, blesses you. In my body, there was a tiger energy that wasn't suitable for the rest of the night that had finally come. In the end, after receiving even Ciel's blessing, I lay down on the bed. While thinking of non-nutritive things such as, if I have a bad dream while sleeping, my bed might break. The moment Ray Housty's eyes came to mind, I pulled up the blanket to my face. Now that Chiago's fate has been revealed with this hand, and I have proven my power in front of everyone, what will happen to me? Next day Ariel went to the Hagen Building Agency. It was real estate, because she wants to purchase residence for her bright future. But the employee blatantly refused her to show any building. He gave an excuse, we don't deal with clients who live below District 10. You need to leave. A rich lady who was also present there spoke, after all, I don't even think those districts have real buildings. You're right. It's just a bunch of shanties, from what I hear. The employee continued, if I've made myself clear, then please don't waste my time any further. Come back when you have cash in hand. Ariel can't believe it. Just less than 24 hours later and I'm being treated like dirt. She had definitely heard of it. The capital is divided into 15 districts, with nobles and wealthy people living in District 1 to 3, commoners living in District 4 to 10. I lowered my head a little to see how I dressed. Since I borrowed pants from Daisy, I wasn't seen as an aristocratic girl. Ariel frowned. She thought, they don't even see me as human, let alone a potential client. And instead of me, I heard a voice pointing out their rudeness. She spoke, "Oh my, ladies. I think what you just said is a little rude." She might be a servant who runs an errand for a certain house. She came here because her master asked her to find out about the building, and if she was rudely kicked out in this way. It's getting more and more spectacular. She continued, "What can a servant see that the noble sends her on errands?" The ladies praised the countess. As expected, the countess is very merciful to her. Lady asked, "This time, you registered a divine in the Temple of Ilium, right? It wasn't just a literal rudeness. Predict the circumstances of others and sympathize with them. Do these nobles know that all such things are rude?" And then the door opened and someone else came in. I had my back against the door, so I couldn't see who was coming in, but I could see the ladies who glanced around the door, looking surprised. It was the same with the man with a mustache. "Oh my, how long has it been, Marquis?" The man jumped up and bowed his head upright. I furrowed my eyebrows and looked back. There stood a face I knew well. Cass Lloyd. The man with a mustache spoke. "Hurry up and get her out of here." Then Cass opened his mouth. "There's no need for that." At that, the man with a mustache looked at him with his puzzled eyes. Cass lifted my hand and kissed me gently on the back of my hand. I could feel the ladies making surprised faces. "Lord Marquis." Then he continued, "It must have been that you had brought salvation to the poor in the most humble part of the city. It has been while, Saintess." I removed my hood and I stared at him with bewildered eyes. Cass, with his cool expression, spoke straight to him. "You're not a believer who doesn't even recognize the saint's face, are you? You seem to have stopped by to find a building for the temple relief project. Did Hagen introduce you to a good building?" Cass said, looking into my eyes. Everyone knows that Cass Lloyd isn't the type of person who likes to joke. Then I also kept playing and spoke. "They say there's no building. I need to go to another agency." Hagen's lips trembled at my words. "No, that's not it, Saintess." It was a little funny to see him trembling in embarrassment because of the words I had spit out. Ariel continued, If I tell the high priest about today's event, he might make good use of it in the Mass. The Temple Relief Project is experiencing these difficulties." Hagen's face turned dark. "Perhaps, when the believers find out about this, the Hagen Agency will receive a great deal of protest or scorn." "Saintess, please forgive me." Ariel continued, "I need to review the eligibility criteria for the Divine of Ilium. As you know, there are a lot of nobles who want to become saints, but there are a lot of people with personalities that are not suitable for being a saint in Ilium, so we're struggling with various problems." The madams' faces turned pale. Becoming a member of Ilium means becoming the mainstream noble of the empire, because what was stamped on a saint was the door to the mainstream nobility. The news that the Ragefield family had been expelled not long ago was no longer a secret. "They ask for apology, Saintess." "We apologize," all the madams shouted in a panicked voice, but I turned around. At that moment, Cass' voice was heard. "Would you like to leave?" "Yes," I answered, grabbing his outstretched hand for the escort. But he stopped while trying to escort me. He spoke, but I think we need to stop at the merchant for a while. For today's relief project, I have left a relief fund of 5,000 francs to deliver to Saintess." What else is this about?" I looked at Cass with puzzled eyes. A faint smile could be seen on his lips. Then I heard Hagen's voice from behind. "Saintess, I will give it to you now." "Me too, wait a minute." "Saintess, I will donate for my family as well." Hagen and the madams were rummaging through their bags. "Cass, perhaps. Please take it. It's a small, sincere thing, but please." And they brought me more than 5,000 francs. This is what it meant to say, "If you're going to sympathize, give it to me with money. and I pretended to be worried while holding back the smile that popped out around my mouth. Please use it for the relief project and may Eliam forget our blasphemy. As soon as they left the store, the unexpected collection made my dark mood well up. Ariel spoke. Hagen seemed to be looking forward to the temple relief project. Cass raised the corner of his lips and spoke to me. Yes. The Saintess didn't say that you would entrust the business to him. And it's the money that you got by poking out my feet, so you don't have to worry about it. Well, if the Marquis said so, I said with a smile. In any case, this money was to be spent on self-help, anyway. It's embarrassing to take it all by myself. Can I give you 10% of it? Cass chuckled and gave a cool grin. It's fine. Perhaps it was no coincidence that he stopped by the Hagen agency. I asked, but since when have you been watching me? From the moment he saw my unrecognizable back, he knew it was me. He said, I found you coming out of the temple. Your face looked complicated. The voices of the priests praising the Saintess were noisy, and that is probably the reason. I reply, you heard the news. A slight smile crept across Cass' lips. Very intense power. The priests must be excited because they witnessed such a pure strength that can't be compared with divine power. Then it must have been that the Saintess healed my blue wing as well. Cass said with a smirk. But at the time, I said no, so he had nothing to say. I guessed a little. He turned his gaze to look at the others and continued. Because your eyes, which were telling me not to throw it away, but rather kill it, showed a deep contempt for me. His dark blue eyes had a monotonous glow. As if you saw the condition of the abandoned bird yourself. I suddenly got curious and asked. How is the blue wing doing? Yes, obviously. The dogs have been retrained not to dare to bite their owners. That's a relief. Then his voice was heard again. Isn't it because you wanted to hide your divine power? Divine power. Those two words from his mouth stabbed me in the chest. Then he asked, is that child worthy enough for you to give up your efforts? Cass asked me with a look as if he didn't understand. I lifted my head, looked straight at Cass, and opened my mouth. Even if it was someone other than Daisy who was there, if I had the power to save them, I would save them. In my past life, I wasn't a good person who helped others with a warm heart. Of course, I still don't intend to live like that now. But in a desperate situation where someone's life was at stake, I had only one choice. Help as best I can. That was all I knew. Even if it was the Marquis. It's a trivial thing, but I added unnecessary words. Suddenly, a subtle light flashed in his dark blue eyes. After a while, he opened his mouth. You are speaking like a saintess. Perhaps all that matters to him are numbers and scales. I answered casually. I don't know what it means to be a saintess, but it's just an act for me. If I had watched that child die to hide my divine power, I would have suffered from a sense of loss and nightmares. So saving Daisy was also for me. Whatever it is, it's the way I feel comfortable. His gaze suddenly seemed to deepen. Soon, an unexpected smile appeared on his lips. You are saying that your scale is different from mine. It could be expressed that way. I looked at him and nodded my head. He smiled brightly at my resolute response. Then he asked me, today, do you have more time? Shall we go on a date?